തുടങ്ങാല്ലേ?
Okay. Saurav, let us start, please.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. I welcome you all to another session of Concursor 2020. Well, this is the end session and cover the topic role of SAS programmer and is handled by Mr. Ranjit PV, Director Biostatics and Programming, worked as statistical analyst, had experience of statistical reporting in respiratory, established medicines and airway diseases of different, worked as a research fellow in the statistics department of the Kerala Forest Research Institute, Thrissur, in a project entitled Forestry Sector Analysis for the state of Kerala. So I would like to invite Mr. Ranjit PV to this webinar. Sir, please.
Thank you, Fatima, for warm welcome. And more than all those things, I'm a student of Jacinta Miss and classmate of Sina. So I think that's more than enough, right? So I'm going to talk about one of the programming language, SAS, that is Statistical Analysis System, and the application of SAS into the clinical research. Why I want to talk about this specific topic is generally like whoever is studying mathematics or statistics or into the computer application and all, generally everyone thinks that we don't have much opportunities into the clinical research, right? Because clinical, whenever we think about clinical, it's all about biology. We always think that only life science people can go to that area. But that is not the case. So first of all, I want to tell all of you that our industry, our world is changing. There are lots and lots of changes happening in our industry, in the world itself, and we all are behind the technologies, behind the data. If we want to do anything further in this world, we should analyze the data and then prove it. Okay. And now, like you see, as per Google, they are telling that now we have more smartphones in the world than toothbrush. So all this, whenever people are using smartphone, whenever people are using some wearables, some gadgets and all, it's all huge data. Right now, Fitbits and all you guys are using, and then going for a walk. So your heart rate, your pulse rate, your height, weight, BMI, everything will be getting captured. So it's a huge data. So we will be like moving to a world where this type of data analysis will happen. There statisticians, mathematicians, and the computer application students can play a major role. So I am specifically going to talk about the application of this software, that is SAS, or more than that, maybe a statistician or a mathematician or a computer application person or CA or I think BCA or MCA students, what they can do in this industry. Okay, so clinical industry means whenever we are getting a product into the market, like see, whenever you are having a health issue, you are going to a medical shop, having maybe going to a doctor is prescribing the medicine, then getting that, having it and getting cured, right? How that product is coming to the market, that's what we do it in clinical search. And it is like very relevant now because we all are desperately waiting for the vaccine, the COVID vaccine. And proudly I can say I am the one of the person who is working for that vaccine. I think you all are reading lots of news about the Covishield, the vaccine developed by Oxford University and bought by Serum, a Pune-based company. Currently, I am the person who is analyzing that data. So we'll come to all those things. So first of all, I want to give you a little bit idea about the pharmaceutical industry. So what we do is research, development, manufacturing, and marketing of the product that will help to cure the disease. Okay, so whenever we are having a health issue, we'll be using some product. That can be medicine, that can be sometimes some devices, whatever it is. So for getting that into the market, there are lots of research happens, then development, then manufacturing and marketing. All those things, these all activities happens in pharmaceutical industry. Okay, some of the pharma companies you can see here, maybe some of them will be familiar for you. Bristol Myers, GSK, Novartis and all. So if you are using for example Sensodyne toothpaste, you will see GSK, Glaxo. If you are having Horlicks, Boost and all, you will see some of the products some of these products into the packet. So these all are the some pharma organization. There is another maybe another type of organization that I can tell it is contract research organization, CRO. What CRO will do is these pharmaceutical companies, they outsource all their work to CRO, and then CRO work for them. Okay, so there are, these all are the famous CROs. I want to tell why I am talking about the CROs here is I want all of you to know about some of the common organization. Those are hiring statistician, hiring mathematician, and hiring like this BCA, MCA students to do this data analysis. You'll find lots and lots of opportunities here. I'm coming to our subject statistics. So I'm a statistician by education. I'm working as a statistician. I don't know how much knowledge you are having about statistics. I know you have one paper about statistics. So statistics is all about the summarizing data, right? Now, if I give you a huge data in an Excel sheet, you can't do anything, right? You can just manually go through that, check some of the maybe outliers, some of the points, and talk about it. That's it. But when we are having statistics as a subject, we can analyze this data, summarize it in a different way, and then write a conclusion about it. See, why we need a data? When we are having a data, we need to conclude something out of it, right? That is the statistical inference. So all those things we will be doing using statistics. Now I told that there are like in clinical industry, what we are generally doing is we are getting a product into the market. So that product is working fine or not. That type of comparisons, that type of statistical analysis, we are going to do it using statistics. Now I'm coming to the software. This is what I want all of you to learn. You can Google it further about it. It's very like a maybe I can tell you that it's one of the hot cake into the market. SAS programmers. Now I started my career in 2005 with Novartis as a statistical analyst and statistician. I'm using this SAS for last 15 years, 2000 from 2005 onwards. I can tell you there will be around maybe 10,000 or 20,000 programmers as programmers working only into the clinical industry, and it's a huge opportunities. Every year I go to different universities and hire freshers. Maybe I have even personally I have hired around 100-150 freshers from different universities who and then trained them into the SAS. So it's it's not easy. You will not get it for free. It's very costly. But yes, if you are really interested, there are like lots of institutes, maybe online institutes and all from where you can learn. So it's a software developed by SAS Institute for managing the data, doing multivariate analysis, business intelligence, predictive analysis, so everything. When if you have a data and if you want to do a statistical analysis, this is the best software. So SAS, full form is statistical analysis system. Anything like so predictive analysis. You have some data and what is going to happen in future. We can do it using SAS. Multivariate analysis. Multivariate analysis means it's a huge data. We are having data for you from the different time points for different parameters and everything. Those multivariate data we can analyze it using this SAS. Okay, so SAS was developed by North Carolina University in 1966 and all. Then, so North Carolina is one of the famous university in US, in the North Carolina state. And then, there was a SAS Institute, and then they have taken the responsibility and developed it further. So every a time they come up with a new some new components they add and come up with a new versions. Now we are using SAS 9.4 version. If you are maybe when you are searching, you will see some lower versions. Sometimes you will get for free and or like the 6th version, 7th version, like that. That also you can use. Nothing wrong in that. Only thing is, yeah, when we are using 9.4 and all, we'll have more components, more options to use. That is it. Nothing other than that. So you don't need to be very particular about the version. Okay. So mainly in SAS we have data steps and proc step. Data step means that will always play with the data when we are having, for example, I told when data is in Excel sheet or when data is in a TXT format, data is in any other format. Using this data step, we will convert that into the SAS format. Then we will do all this like creating variables, observations, changing the labels, format, all the attributes, everything. All those such activities happens in a data step. Then procedure means there are like lots of processing happens. For example, if you want to sort the data, if you want like transpose the data, that means vertical to horizontal, horizontal to vertical. Then calculating the frequency. For example, you are having 100 observation. From that 100 observation, how many males, how many females? We have a simple procedure called proc freq. If you write proc freq data equal to, if you pass that data, that will give the frequency for all the categorical variable. Right? Frequency generally we find it for the categorical variable. So categorical variable means the whole data we can divide it into different category. Now age is not a categorical variable, it's a continuous variable because age will change. Height is a continuous variable, weight is a continuous variable. All this will change, but age, but gender or race or ethnicity, severity, all these are categorical variable. When it comes to categorical, we always present frequency and percentage. When it is continuous variable, we always present the summary statistics like n, mean, standard deviation, and all. So we have proc freq, proc means, proc report, like that. Lots and lots of procedures. That is also like that is very important in SAS. Now macros means just to improve the efficiency, avoid the repetitive task. We write a piece of code, then macroize it, and that we can use it later as well. So we write lots of macros in SAS. And anything like now, first I mentioned that we are getting data into the different format, then converting it into the SAS, and then we can even convert back into the different format as well. Excel or PDF, HTML, RTF, whatever format our like client needs or with whomever you are working, they need, you can convert it back into that format and submit to them. Okay, these all are the different maybe components of SAS. I can tell you, it's all like there are too much of information, too much of components in SAS. It's very difficult to learn each and everything. If you are really interested, you can like just like a base SAS is more than enough to work as a SAS programmer. Then if you are doing more statistical analysis, then it is SAS stat. If you want to create graphs, figures and everything, then SAS graph. Okay, even operational research is having, the econometrics is having different components like that. You will see different components. We don't learn everything, and it's very difficult to learn everything as well. We don't need, if you want to work as a statistical programmer or a statistician also, you don't need to know each and everything. The basic knowledge about base SAS, SAS stat and SAS graph is more than enough to become a good SAS programmer. Okay, so that is a basic, like a brief introduction about the SAS. Now I'm going to talk about the clinical trial, and then what my plan is to show you one of the case study where like what SAS programmer or statistician what we do generally. Okay, so clinical trial is the process I have already mentioned earlier. When if you want to get a medicine into the market, a product into the market, we do the research and development for 10, 11, 15 years and all. So that process is called clinical trial. Right? It's not very easy. It is very difficult. I can tell you, in a year, maybe by worldwide, there will be research and development will be happening for around 5,000 drugs, 5,000 medicine, and at last around 5 or maximum 10 products coming into the market, because it's very high risk. We are playing with the patient's life, patient's data. We have to submit to the authorities like FDA, EMEA, now in India, DCGI and all. If they approve it, then only we can get that product into the market. First, we do it in the animals like rat, rabbit, and all those things, monkeys and all. And if it is working fine, then we try it in healthy volunteers. Then after that, we do it in patients. Okay. So now everyone is desperately waiting for the vaccine, right? So how that vaccine will come into the market? First, the organization will develop the vaccine, looking into that. Now it is a virus disease. For example, COVID is virus attack. So they will looking into our the body, the parameters, and everything. They will develop the organization, big pharma organization will develop the vaccine, that molecule, and then first we experiment that into the animals, check that everything is fine. That means there is no death of animals. They are absolutely fine. They are not having any serious adverse events, serious side effects and all. And then we, after successful of animal trial, that is we call it as preclinical, then we start with the clinical trial. There first we give to the healthy volunteers. That means they are absolutely fine. They are healthy. They don't have any health issues. So we first give it to them and check that do we have, like, are they having any side effects? Any death is happening? Any adverse events are happening? Serious adverse events, hospitalization, such a things we'll check. If there is no issues, then we give to the patients and then check that how it is working. After taking the medicine, they are getting cured or not. If everything is working fine, we submit to the authority and they will check into that. This process, it's very easy to tell. Now I just told it in 5 minutes, but generally it happens for 10, 11, 12 years. Then we get a product into the market. Okay, so that is called the clinical trial. Now, when I'm talking about the case study, you will understand it more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to present about one of the indications. So indication means one of the disease, the health issue that commonly having in our world, and that will help you to understand more. Okay, diabetics. So I'm planning to talk about the diabetics here. I'm not going to talk about each and every bullet point because it's all the clinical terms. It will be very difficult for all of you to understand. So no need to think from that perspective. Just understand diabetics. I think everyone will be knowing what is diabetics. At least one member will be there in your family who is diabetics, right? We in local terms we tell that sugar. Okay, so I'm going to talk about that diabetics. Now, why I'm talking about diabetics is, it's a big issue. It's a worldwide issue. You can see that how many patients we have in this world. Okay, and you see the data here again. I'm talking about the data. 2019, 463 million diabetics patients we are having world in worldwide. I'm telling, and you can see the different data of different area, like how many in America, in Europe, Asia Pacific and all. Okay, in world we are having 463 million diabetic patients 2019, and you see the prediction here by 2030. That means within next 10 years this is going to become 578 million patients. And then by 2045, that means from now for next 25 years, it's going to become 700 million diabetic patients in this world. Okay, so it's a serious health concern that our world is facing. It's due to our food habits. People are like having lots of junk food, not taking proper exercises. So lots and lots of issues. Now we are seeing even diabetics in kids as well. All of you, I'm telling very openly, as a person who is working into the clinical industry, you have to be very careful about your health. You need to take lots of exercise. Your diet should be very perfect. It's not like, especially like our Malayalis and all, right? 2 times rice, 3 times rice, and then just go to bed. So that will lead to like make you a diabetics patients. So please take care of your health. And you can see that we are now, you'll think we have lots of medicine into the market already for diabetics, right? But still we need some more medicine. We need maybe a better medicine. That is the reason we are still working for some diabetics trial. And you see how much market now. When we are talking about this industry, we need to think from two sides. One is, yes, our product is going to help the patients to cure the disease. So in that way, yes, it's like a service. Patients are going to have the medicine, and that will help them. Second thing is, there is a business as well. When we are selling it, people are going to buy it, right? A huge business. Now you see the business is going to happen from 463 million to 700 million patients. So that much more patients are going to have in this world. So that is the reason new medicines are coming, or new medicines are getting developed. Okay. These all are the common symptoms whenever you are a diabetic patient: urinating often, feeling thirsty after having breakfast, after having lunch and dinner. Also, we are feeling okay, the food is not enough, I want to eat more. Sometimes it impacts our vision. Lots of patients you will see due to diabetics, they are losing their vision. Okay, weight loss, weight gain. So different types of issues happen with the body weight and all. So these all are just common symptoms. I want to give you the idea. There are medicines already, treatments into the market. There are like a different based on the cases of diabetics or based on the different stages of diabetics. People are having medicine. There are, you will see people having insulin. Some are having oral medicine like a tablet and all. Some are controlling with the diet and exercises. Some are even checking daily with this glucose meter and taking the decision about medicine and all. Okay, so these all are the treatments already into the market. Okay, now I want to give you some more information here about this thing about diabetics. Now, I told you what is diabetics. It is in our villages, in our land, wherever like you are hearing like sugar. Everyone tell no one. Most of the cases you will not hear diabetics. Maybe in hospitals and all you will see people are talking about diabetics. Otherwise, we always tell sugar. Okay, why it is like that? Because the parameter what is impacting is a plasma glucose, that is sugar. Okay, so we have a parameter in our body, that is hemoglobin, that is plasma glucose, blood sugar. You will see in the slides the amount of blood sugar, plasma glucose level. Whenever that is going high, that means we are diabetic. Okay, so already you all know, right? You all are educated. I think you don't need to know too much about the clinical things, but still you are educated. You can understand that in our body there is a blood. There are like lots of parameters: hemoglobin, hematocrit, alkaline phosphate, albumin, and total bilirubin. Every lots and lots of things are there in our body, right? Whenever you are doing the blood checkup, if you go for a complete blood checkup, you will get 2-3 pages of report, right? There you will see lots and lots of parameters. There you can see one of the parameters, blood sugar. Or when how we are checking the diabetic or not. In clinic they are telling, right? Early morning without having breakfast, you come, then they'll take the blood and check the sugar. So we have that parameter in our body. So due to our food habit or due to our lifestyle, that is going high. Okay, whenever it is going high, that is called diabetic. Plasma glucose level is going high. Now you can see the values here in this table. When they will be normal, then pre-diabetics, then diabetics. Okay, so whenever this plasma glucose level or HbA1c or blood glucose is between 5.4 to, okay, this value you see here, that means they are normal. When it is comes to 8.6 to 10.2 or between 7, like after 7 till 8.6, it is pre-diabetics. They are moving to be diabetic. Then once it crosses that value, they are diabetic. Okay, then different stages you can see: high diabetic, then extreme diabetic. Okay, so this is the diabetic is our indication. This is the value. We see some of the graph here. Now I told that HbA1c value or plasma glucose value is going high. What we need to do here, if we want to get our, like after taking our medicine, what need to happen here? That plasma glucose level need to come back, right? Something, our parameter went high, that is diabetic. So we are giving a medicine to the patient. After taking our medicine, that plasma glucose level value need to come back. Okay, so there is a change we are expecting. Okay, now some of the clinical terms I'll tell you here. Baseline. Baseline means, see, base, right? We always tell a base. When we are having when we are doing a construction, there should be a base. Like that here in clinical terms, baseline means before taking medicine. Just before taking medicine, we will capture all the information of the patient. That we call it as baseline. That means that time, that information, whatever information that we are capturing, that doesn't have any relation with our medicine. Before taking medicine, the doctor will take all your blood, like blood samples, and then check everything. That is baseline. Okay, change from baseline means after taking medicine also, we will, after giving medicine also, we will check this parameter. Okay, now a patient is coming to the clinic, we are taking the sample, checking this HbA1c, we made a note of it. Then we are giving the medicine, giving this diabetic medicine. Then after, we know, I'm not telling quickly we will take, how much time it will take to dissolve it in our body and start working. For example, maybe tomorrow, we are giving a medicine today. Tomorrow we are telling the patient to come to clinic again, taking the blood sample, checking the HbA1c, and that change. So today's value, today is the, yesterday they came, yesterday we have taken the baseline, given the medicine. Today again came, we have taken the HbA1c, today's value minus yesterday's value, that is called change. That change should be, so today's value should be less than yesterday's value. That means our drug is working fine, right? If HbA1c, like for example, if blood glucose value is 11, that means diabetic yesterday. Then we have given the medicine, and today when we are checking, it is 10. Okay, that means there is a change. The value started coming down. That means our drug is working fine. Okay, I'm just talking about one patient, one parameter here, and only one visit. Now, when it is coming back to 10, that time itself we can't tell that it is working fine. We need to continuously monitor it. Then again, we will tell patient to have the medicine. Every day we are having, right now, when you are having a health issues, you are having medicine maybe every day twice or thrice, after food, before food, and all, right? So it's all like working. It is going to work. So today we will be taking the parameter, the value, tomorrow again, then day after tomorrow again, like that. Maybe we will tell that patient to come for 10 visits or 20 visits, 30 visits, like that. Visit means 30 times. Then all these times, whenever they are coming, we are checking this value and then monitoring it. So if it is going down, further down, and coming back to normal between 5.4 and 7, that means our drug is working fine. Okay, so that value we call it as change from baseline. Okay, now you see this graph. This is one of the graph this SAS programmer or statistician creates. Okay, you see here 3 graphs. You can see the baseline. Okay, in the x-axis, all 3 graphs in the x-axis, you can see baseline, week 4, week 8, week 12, week 16, like that. Okay, these all are the different visit patient is coming to the clinic. And you see in the y-axis, change from baseline in HbA1c. Okay, so at the baseline, now this is in 0 because change from baseline we are checking. Now change will be, now yesterday I told you 11 is the value at the beginning of the trial baseline, and today it became 10. So change will be 10 minus 11 is minus 1. Okay, so change should be always negative. That is the reason in x-axis, y-axis you will see 0, minus 2, minus 4, minus 6, like that, because the value is coming down. So it is negative change. That means the drug is working fine. If it is positive change, then graph will be not into like this way. This value will be going high. That means after taking our medicine, diabetic, the plasma glucose is actually increasing. That is a positive change. That is not good. That drug is not going to come into the market because the patient is not getting cured. Actually, that patient's diabetes is getting worse. Okay, so change from baseline should be always negative. You see baseline 0. That means the first visit there is nothing to check. Second, week 4. That means week 4 means maybe after end of 1 month we have given the medicine here. We told the patient to have medicine maybe 30 days continuously, every day one dose. Then patient is coming to the clinic after 1 month. We have taken the blood sample and checked the value. You see the value change happened minus 0.4. Okay, so for example, if the value was 10 at the baseline, it came down to 9.6. That is the reason minus 0.4 change happened. Then second month, it further came down to minus 9. This is here minus 9.6, maybe 9.4, minus like a 9.2, then 9. Okay, so like that it is coming down. Now you see here 2 lines. One we are telling algoliptin, that is one of the drug 25 mg, and placebo is the another medicine, that is the comparator, that is already into the market. We will not tell what is the name of that. Okay, so we have given, for example, in this clinical trial we are having 100 patients. For 50 patients we have given algo. For 50 patients we have given placebo. Placebo means it's already that drug into the market. And then we are telling the patients to come to clinic every month for next 4 months and checking the hemoglobin value. And you see that whoever is having algo, they are having very good change from baseline, negative change from baseline compared to the placebo. Placebo is also reducing HbA1c, but this drug is working better than placebo. Okay, so this is the way we can tell that our drug is working fine. Okay, so this is just one of the example I'm telling. Like this, we generate around 200-250 outputs. You are seeing one graph only here. We create tables, we create listings, we create graph. 3 types of outputs, around 200-250 we generate related to different parameters, different things to prove that our drug is working fine. Now this is about the diabetics. That is the reason we are talking about HbA1c. But when a drug is coming into the market, and maybe for diabetics, it's not only about the diabetics. We need to prove that after taking this drug, patient is not having any other issues. Maybe diabetics, yes, patient is improving, but after taking that medicine, if patient is having any other health issues, it's not good, right? So we need to prove that our drug is safe as well. After taking our medicine, patient is not having any adverse event. After taking medicine, patients in any of the other parameters, blood samples we are taking, any of the other parameters are not becoming abnormal. ECG is not becoming abnormal. Body weight is not becoming abnormal. Okay, vital signs like respiratory rate, pulse rate, and systolic blood pressure, diastolic blood pressure, any of these are not going to be abnormal. Everything we need to prove. That is the reason we create around 200-250 outputs. Okay, hope you got a little bit idea about what we do here. Now I'll tell you more what we are going to do now. This is what you have seen here, the outputs and all that we generate. And there are different activities also we need to do it when it comes to a clinical trial. Okay, so I'm going to talk about that overall statistician or statistical programmer will play a major role. Okay, sample size. I think whoever is learning statistics, they will be having little bit idea about sampling. Now, when a drug is coming into the market, this is for a whole world, right? Whole population. This is not for 1 or 2 people. So we need to we need to make a product that will work for everyone. Okay, but can we do this experiment for whole world, for each and everyone, then get a product into the market? No, right? It's impossible because it will take time, it will consume money, lots of manpower and everything. So what we do, from this whole sample, from this whole population, whole world, we select one sample, then do the experiment. Okay, then we tell that, okay, this is this sample, we have experimented into this sample, it is working fine. So if it is working fine for this sample, it will work for every other samples. Okay, a simple example I can tell you. When you are cooking, when you are preparing a rice, how you will check that it is boiled properly or not? You will not completely have and then tell that it boiled properly, right? No. Maybe you will take 1 or 2 rice, right? With a spoon, you will take 1 or 2 rice, you will check, okay, it boiled properly or not. Then if you are satisfied with that, you will switch off the gas, right? Same way, from this whole population, we will take a sample and do the experiment. There are different techniques. Simple random sampling is there, stratified sampling is there, cluster sampling is there. So different techniques are there that we use based on the needs. Okay, and when we are using this sample, when we are selecting this sample, we need to check every category should be there. Okay, that means male should be there, female should be there, different age category should be there. That means less than 18 should be there, 18 to 35, 35 to 60, greater than 60. So different age category should be there. Different ethnicities should be there. Asian should be there, African should be there, American should be there, black should be there, Caucasian should be there, white should be there. Different race, different ethnicity, different age category, different height, different weights, different BMI. Why? Because the drugs work differently for each and everyone. There are, for some people, maybe whenever they are having paracetamol quickly, it will cure, fever goes quickly. But some people, we see that it will take 2-3 days. So it works different way. So that is the reason whenever we are getting a product into the market, because it's all related to health, we make sure that we have considered a perfect sample from this population that is having each and every category. That means avoiding the bias. Now I'm submitting a clinical trial to an authority with 100 samples, and all these 100 samples are males. Authority is not going to approve it. Authority will tell that these all are males. I don't know how this drug is going to work for a female, so I'm not going to approve it. So we make sure the sample from this population using different techniques, and that is a statistician for statistical programmer job. Using SAS, we write some programs, then collect the samples. Okay, and then when we are selecting the samples, we make sure that everyone is there. Like male is there, female is there, different races are there, different ethnicity is there, different height is there, different weight is there. Like that we collect. That means to avoid the bias, that is called the randomization techniques. Okay, and then whenever we are doing such a thing, there should be a proper design. Any experiment, whatever it is, any experiment you do, you should have a proper plan in place, right? A proper objective. Now, and then how we are going to capture this data when we are telling patient to come daily or weekly or monthly, when we are giving this medicine morning or evening, before food, after food, like that. A proper design should be there for for this experiment. That also decides by statistician or a statistical programmer. In statistics, we have a paper called a design of experiments. Using that, like complete random block method, and also different methods are the sequential methods are. Using that, we decide this design. Okay, then selecting endpoints. Now endpoint means the final value, the final value that is going to tell us, that will help us to tell that this drug is working fine or not. I have showed you an example of a diabetics trial. In diabetics trial, that change from baseline of HbA1c, okay, change from baseline of that parameter, plasma glucose, sugar, change from baseline, that is the endpoint. Okay, because that value will help us to tell that this drug is working fine or not. So that endpoint selects or decides by a statistician. Okay, and it changes. Now I'm talking about diabetics only. When it comes to a respiratory trial, respiratory means respiratory issues, right? Like asthma or COPD. Now this COVID itself is a respiratory issue. What we do is, we have a balloon. It's not exactly the balloon that we use for birthday and all. There is we have an equipment like a balloon. We will tell patients to blow it, and how much time patient is taking to blow it to reach this balloon to a particular volume, and how much time. Based on that time and volume, there is a parameter called FEV, forced expiratory volume. Okay, we calculate that and then check it. So we check the change from baseline of that. Before taking medicine, how much time patient is taking, because it's a respiratory issue. Whoever is having respiratory issues, they will struggle to blow this balloon and reach to that particular volume. And then when your respiratory system is improving, you will not take much time. So based on that, we check the endpoint, like we select the endpoint FEV, forced expiratory volume, that is for respiratory trial. When it comes to neuroscience, it is quality of life, right? Alzheimer's, multiple sclerosis, all these type of diseases, it's about quality of life. Whenever a neurology, like a neurology issues are there, your quality of life will go down. So how can we improve the quality of life? When it comes to oncology trial, the cancer trial, survival time, how much more time patient can survive with our medicine. Like that, the endpoint will change from study to study. That decides by statistician or SAS programmer. Okay. Then hypothesis testing. That means whoever is, again, it's from statistics side only. We will have a null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis, where we will tell that this drug is, there is a significant difference, statistically significant difference between our drug and comparator. Comparator means it's already into the market. Okay. Now, for example, we are looking for a new drug for fever. Paracetamol or Dolo is already into the market. That is working fine. That is one of the common medicine maybe everyone is using. So we will be, our new medicine will be there. comparator will be this paracetamol or dolo. Then we'll check that our drug is working better than this drug or not. Okay, so that is the way we set up the hypothesis. Then programming of summary tables, listings, and graph. You have seen 2-3 graphs that I have shown earlier. I'll be showing you some more. So that program, that is the main duty of SAS programmer. As I mentioned, around 200, 250 tables, listings, graph that we generate, that will help us to prove that our drug is working fine or not. Okay. So this is the process. You can see that I just put it in this way, how the data analysis happens in a clinical trial. You can see the picture. That means a patient is into the clinic talking to the doctor. This is what happens, right? Whenever you go to a clinic, doctor will be asking you lots of questions. So all those information, whatever is telling, you're telling to that doctor, that all data. Okay. From there, we need to reach to a report called CSR, that is clinical study report. Okay. This report only we submit to the authorities. Authority means FDA. When it comes to US, it is FDA. When it comes to US, Europe, it is EMEA. In India, it is DCGA, Drug Controller Regulatory Board. Okay. So like that, every country is having different authority. They are the one who need to approve this. Then only we can get a product into the market, sell a product into the market. So patient going to clinic, providing all the information. From there, we need to reach it to this report. How we are going to reach, that's what I'm going to show it here. Okay. And you know, if everything, whatever related to whatever product, whichever product which is related to our health, we need to go through this process. Now you are using lots of paste, right? Toothpastes you are using, soap you are using, maybe some of the oils, shampoo, conditioner, face packs, all these, because every things, these all things are related to your health. You are using some paste, and tomorrow if something happens to your teeth, who is responsible? So no one can produce a paste and get into the market. It has to go through this process and get an approval from the authority. So they will give this paste to people, maybe some 50 people. For example, we are developing a new paste. Colgate is already into the market. We will give maybe 50, 100 samples. We will select from the market, from this population, from this world. 50 people we will tell them to use Colgate. For 50 people, we will tell them to use our paste. Every day they will brush it. We will, maybe with the help of dentist, we will check all the parameters related to teeth. It is whitening, it is smelling, everything. It is yellowish or not, like that, each and everything. How much strong it's making, like a teeth is getting strong or not, and it is impacting the taste or not, taste of patients or taste of people. Like that, each and everything they will check and prove it. Okay, our drug is, like our paste is working better than Colgate, then only we can get that into the market. Okay, so this is what we need to do. How? So there is a document called protocol, that is actually a Bible of clinical trial. There we mention everything. Okay, how we are going to do this clinical trial, what is the design, how we are going to select the samples, all the information will be there in this protocol. For everything, whatever we are doing, there should be, right? Now you have, like, you are the students, you have textbooks to read and learn. Like that, we have a document called protocol. That is what we follow. Case report form means the data. Now we have seen, like, see, whenever you are going to a clinic, you are talking to a doctor. Doctor is asking you lots of information, then noting it. It's all into the paper. First verbally you are communicating, then doctor is making a note. Okay, your name, age, sex, race, then your height, weight, BMI, everything will be checked with the help of nurse, making note of it. Doctor will be asking about your history. Are you diabetic, or any surgery happened? Are you allergic, gastric? Everything will be making a note. Are you having any other medicine for any other health issues? If you are having any medicine, they'll be making note of it. Then maybe you will be going for your pulse checkup, respiratory checkup, sugar, pressure, everything they'll be checking. Then blood samples, ECG, all these will be in paper, right? When we need to do the analysis, it should convert into the electronic format, data entry and all those things. So there this case report form. This is like a questionnaire. That questionnaire will help us to convert this data from paper to the electronic format. Okay. Then once we have that, we will annotate it. Annotate it means it's like we are giving a variable names, right? Once it is like we have to convert into an electronic format and then analyze the data. So think of an Excel sheet where we have rows, variables with a, for each and every variable, a variable name should be there. So like that, and converting to, so that is called the annotation. We are converting it with a proper variable names, data sets, and all, in a very nice format. Okay, then we will validate that data because it's all patient's data. We don't want to have any issues, so we make sure that it is validated and everything is perfect. Then we will start the analysis. Okay, so you will see that data handling, because data handling and all means if there is a missing value, how to handle that data, then the sample size calculation. So different analysis will happen. After that analysis, we create these tables, listings, and figures, and using that we go ahead and at last we come up with. So I don't want to like spend much time there and complicate you, because I'll show you some more examples where you will understand all those things. So whatever I have explained, this is only here. So TLF means tables, listing, and a figure, and then it's become a drug. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'll be showing, I told you right around 250 outputs we generate. I'm going to show you some of the outputs as an example, some of the table. Now you can see here tables, listings, and figures. Okay, tables, listing, and figures. So around 250 tables, listings, and figures we generate to prove that our drug is working fine. So I'm going to show you that as some of the examples which will give you more idea. And that is what a SAS programmer do. SAS programmer generate or statistician generate. Okay. Don't look into all these numbers, because these all are like, I can't show you the exact output because these all are confidential information. So I have changed the numbers here and there. I have like masked the treatment name and all. So don't think too much about the numbers, and I'll just look into the layout. Okay. So this output, this is one of the table, we call it as a demographic table. Okay. Demographic table means demographic information will be there. This table has created using SAS by a SAS programmer. Okay, this is just like one page only I have showed you. This output will be 2-3 pages. More information will be there. In this output, what we are showing is, I told you earlier, when we are doing when we are selecting the sample from this population, we need to make sure that it is unbiased. We have people from different categories. Okay, then only our authority will approve it. So this output will help authority to see and understand that we have considered patients from different categories. Now they will see here, okay, age. Okay, age is a continuous variable. That is the reason summary statistics, mean age, okay, minimum age, maximum age, and all. So that means, see, these are the two different arms. This is our drug, placebo is the comparator. There are total 60 patients in this clinical trial. 31 are having this drug, 29 is having this drug. Here age category is between 32 to 75. Okay, and here patients are from 23 age to 77. So like that, and you see the mean is coming 51. That means, yes, almost a middle value, so equally distributed. Okay, and in that 31, 22 are male, 9 are female. Here out of 29, 16 are male and 12 are female. Then different race category. How many whites are there? How many blacks are there? Okay, see, I'm not. It's very important in clinical trial. You don't think that why you need to know about the white or black. It's very important because the drugs work differently. When we are talking about whites and all, it will be the European people or sometimes American people. And when we are talking about black and all, it's Africans. So the drug, because their climate is different, their lifestyle is different, their food habit is different. Because of that, all those things, drug works in different way. And when we are getting a product into the market, it is not for India or not for Asia or not for Europe, nothing like that. It is for whole world. That is the reason we need to try. We need to make sure that our sample is having people from everywhere. So this output now there will be second page, third page, and all where height information will be there, weight information will be there, BMI information will be there, ethnicity will be there, all any other things that is demographic. That means anything that is like very much we need to give lots of importance before giving the medicine. Very common things like when you are going to a clinic, first thing what patient doctor will ask you about your first once you write your name, then age, right? What is your age? Then yes, sex they will not ask because looking at you itself they know they will put male or female. Then yeah, your BMI will be calculated. That's what height and weight means to make sure you are healthy or not. BMI is the main parameter. Okay, so like that, each and every information will be the looking into this output itself. Authority will take a decision. Okay, you have considered sample from different category or not. Okay, if not, then they are not going to entertain it. So this is one of the output we generate. SAS programmer generate. This is another output, disposition. Okay, very important output. From this output itself, we can tell that our drug is working fine or not. Okay, why? How we can tell that? You see that. Don't get confused with this randomized population and all. Leave about it. Full analysis population. I'm not going to talk about it. That will confuse you. But I can tell you completed and discontinued. Okay. So this clinical trial, I told you, right? You see, first patient is coming. We are taking the information that is baseline. Then we are telling patient to come take the medicine every day. Then come every week or week 4, week 8, week 16 or something like that. Provide the information. Okay. So maybe we are planning this clinical trial for 6 months. So every week, every 4th week, they have to come. Every month they have to come. So 6 times they have to come and provide all the information. If they are coming, that means they are completing. They are following everything. Whatever we told them, they are following it and they are completing it. Okay. Otherwise, there will be some people, they will not come. They are discontinuing. Why they are discontinuing? That means they are not happy with the treatment. Right? These all are the patients. They all are having health issues. See, now when you are going to a doctor, they are prescribing you the medicine, and maybe second day or third day you are expecting something better. If that is not happening, you generally discontinue, right? You don't go to that doctor. You maybe go to a different doctor, or you will go to that doctor and ask for some other medicine. Something changes, like right? We change our way. We change the treatment. Exactly same here. So if people are completing, then we will show their number here. How many subjects are completed under this treatment arm, under this treatment arm, and under this treatment, and how many discontinued. If discontinuation is happening more, that means patients are unhappy. They are not happy with the treatment. So if discontinuations are happening more in our treatment compared to comparator, that is not a positive side. Now you see a different category here. Reason for discontinuation. Okay. Now how many discontinued we are telling, and the reason also. So whoever is not coming, we will check with them through phone and all why you are not coming. If they are telling that adverse event means after taking our medicine, they are having some other health issues. Maybe vomiting is happening, continuous headache is happening, something like that. Then that is a major issue. Discontinued due to adverse event. Death happened. There are clinical trials. There is death happened. Lack of efficacy. Lack of efficacy means patient is not happy with the efficacy. That means it's not getting quickly. It is not getting cured. It's taking time. Then sometimes subject decision. That means the patient is not feeling happy, so discontinue. Sometimes physician decision. Doctor itself will tell you stop that medicine, and it will not work for you. You are having some other issues. Okay. So like that, you see different reason for discontinuation. And the discontinuation due to adverse event, discontinuation due to death, or discontinuation due to this efficacy and all happening more in our drug compared to comparator. Authority is not going to approve our drug. Authority will throw our drug. Authority will question us why we need to approve a drug where patients are more happy with the other drug. Right? So very important. These reports generated by SAS programmer. Okay, it's all frequency. These all frequency and percentages. Using SAS, we generate this output. This is another output. We call it as concomitant medication. Concomitant medication means a medicine that patient is having other than our medicine. Okay. For example, a cancer patient is diabetic also. So we are doing the clinical trial for cancer, but that patient need to have a medicine for diabetics as well, right? Otherwise, it will impact. So there will be some medicines like that we call it as a concomitant medication. We capture that information as well, because there will be cases, some issues will happen due to drug interaction. So because of that, we need to know about it. Okay. Now you see here, total 70 subjects in this clinical trial. In that 70, 21 patients are having some other medicine. Okay. Again, this is frequency and percentage. That 21 we further classified. Some are having folic acid related, some are having iron related medicine. Okay. So like that, different types of medicine patients are having. So that information also we are capturing, because we want to know if any interaction, drug interactions are creating for patients or not. Adverse event report, very important report, because after having adverse event means what? After having our medicine, if patient is having some other health issues, that we call it as an adverse event. Okay. So here 70 patients in our clinical trial. In that, 14 patients are having adverse events. So that means after taking our medicine, 14 are having some health issues. That we are further classifying based on severity. Mild, moderate, severe. So mild and severe, most of the medicines are having adverse events. There is not a single medicine in the market without adverse events, right? And sometimes you are having headache, sometimes you are having nausea, tiredness, vomiting. All those are adverse events. So mild, if it is mild, we will not mind much. But if it is severe and all, we take it very seriously. That is the reason we are further classifying based on severity. So 14 subjects are having adverse event out of 70, and in that 4 are having severe. Okay. So that we further classify based on the body system, where it impacted. Cardiac. Okay. See, cardiac related adverse event, you see here one patient is having severe cardiac related adverse event. It's a major side effects. So we need to look into that very clearly. Authority will ask us why it happened. We need to prove it. Okay. So adverse event reports we generate. Now, I don't know you all are reading the news or not about this Covishield vaccine developed by Oxford University, and now the Pune-based company Serum is doing the analysis. I told I am working for that. What happened there is, now that we kept it on hold due to this adverse event. There is one patient in UK having neurology issue. Neurology issue after taking our medicine, we have seen the patient is having neurology issue. So we decided to keep that work on hold. Now we'll be further investigating about it. It's in news yesterday, Times of India. I think, I don't know, Malayalam newspapers and all. It's coming or not. But all of you can read that. Now next 1 week we are planning to analyze it further about that patient, what happened, why it happened, is it due to our drug or due to some other concomitant medication or due to the patient history. Then only we will take a decision, like do we need to move forward or not. Okay. In India, I can tell you that vaccine, Covishield vaccine, as of now we have given to 101 patients. In that, 23 patients are having adverse event, but all are mild, no issues at all. There is no severe adverse event. So in India, this vaccine development is going really well, but due to this one patient in UK having the issue, we just decided to keep it on hold. Okay. So in the table, what you are seeing is all. So these all are the summary tables. Okay. So tables, always you see the numbers, right? Now 1, 4 severe, 1 cardiac, one severe cardiac issue. All the numbers. Now if we show only these numbers, it will not help us. We can see, okay, how many. Now we need to know who is that patient. Then how it happened. What is that adverse event? What is the action taken? That means after that, it is serious or not, when it started, when it ended, hospitalization happened or not. For that, we generate the listings. Okay. So whatever you have seen till now, it is tables. Now I'm going to show you the listing. Now in the listing, what we generate, what we will show, every information will be there. Now you see the column here, severity. Okay. Now authority can go through each and every, this column, each and every pages, and find the patients with a severe. Mild and moderate is okay. Severe, then they will check, okay, what is, which one, who is that patient, what is that adverse event, what is that issue, when it started, when it ended, or is it serious or not, what is the reason for that. Is it related to the therapy or related to the procedure? Procedure means how we have administered the drug. For example, if it is an injection, after the injection, most of the patients will have some issues, sometimes itching, redness, pain. So that all are like a injection site reactions. These all are not a major adverse event. Okay, so all those things we will check and make sure. So these listings will give more information to the authority. Okay, so this is the listing that we generate. You have seen table, you have seen now listing. Now different table you can see. This is vital signs table, diastolic BP, systolic BP like blood pressure we are capturing. You see different visit 2 and visit 6. I told you earlier baseline and then post baseline. That means after taking medicine. You see here, this is the value during baseline. Okay, mean blood pressure is 60.50 for the 8 patient who has taken this medicine. Here it is 59.43 for 7 patients who has taken this medicine. 56.38 for 16 patients who has taken this medicine. Okay, mean value. Then sixth visit is after taking medicine. So this is the baseline visit, and then after taking medicine, maybe after 6 weeks or 6 days, they came for a visit. Then we have taken the medicine measurement again. You see a small variation. Here it is 60.50. It became 61. That is absolutely fine. 0.50 variation, absolutely fine. But if there is a major variation, definitely question will come to us. See here 59 it became 58.86. It's everywhere you will see very minor variation. That is fine. But if you see a major variation like a 10, between 10 and all, definitely question will be. Okay. So this is like a change from baseline output we generated for vital signs parameter. Same type of output we generated for laboratory parameters. For each and every parameter, we generate it. You see here baseline, then visit 1, visit 2, change from baseline, and also this minus this. Just to check that how these parameter values are fluctuating. Okay. And whatever you are seeing, all these outputs are now creating by a SAS programmers or statisticians. Okay, using SAS. Now, if you are learning a SAS, you are coming to a clinical industry, your job is to create all. It's all writing program. SAS is a programming language. You need to write it, write a program using the data, submit it, and it will create the outputs like this. Okay. Shift table, very important table, very beautiful table. This will tell. Now from the name itself we can understand shift. Okay, see, I can explain you baseline and post baseline. Here you can see post dose, here you can see baseline. Baseline means I already told you before taking medicine. Okay, post dose means after taking medicine. You see here parameter is hemoglobin. Okay, what we are telling here is 145 subjects, 145 patients had a treatment one. They have taken this medicine. In that 139 patients, hemoglobin value we captured. During baseline, now that value we have categorized into low, normal, high. Okay, for every parameter we can check, right, that is normal or not. There is a upper limit and lower limit. If it is between upper limit and normal lower limit, then it's normal. Otherwise, it is low or high. So during baseline, these 139 patients we are categorized like 25 patients were low, 114 patients were normal, and there were no patients with a high. So if you add this 114 plus 25, it is 139. Okay. Then after taking medicine, that is our post dose. After taking medicine, 17 patients became low. So before medicine it was 25. After taking medicine it became 17. So that means 8 patients changed, right? They became they moved to somewhere else. Previously it was 25, then it became 17. So that means 8 patients, some moved to normal. You see here, maybe I can explain it in this way. You see here this 12. Okay, this 12, what this 12, sorry, What this 12 is telling? Before taking medicine, there were 12 patients. They were low. Their hemoglobin value was low. After taking medicine, they became normal. It's like a matrix. Like in mathematics, you all are learning matrix. So this is like a matrix: low, normal. Before taking medicine, 12 patients were low. After taking medicine, they became normal. Okay. You see here, this 4. Before taking medicine, 4 patients were normal, but now they became low. That is not good. After taking our medicine, this is good because low became normal, but here normal became low. That is not good. So this is like a shift from baseline to post baseline. Again, frequency and percentage. This we generate using SAS. Okay, this also table. Now you have seen tables and listing. I will explain one graph and then we'll end my presentation and we'll all keep it for any question and answer session. Okay, this is one of the graph we generate to prove the survival analysis. Survival, I think whoever is knowing learning statistics, they know survival analysis is very one of the common like statistical techniques to prove that how long patient can survive. Okay, so this is an oncology trial. Oncology trial means cancer patients. So in cancer patients, what generally we do is, cancer means already it affected them. Now through our medicine, how long patients can survive. Okay, if we can give them 1 day extra, they'll be happy. That is called cancer, right? Survival. If we can give them 1 week extra due to our medicine, if they can survive, if they can live in this world 1 week extra, it's a great thing. So in the x-axis you see months, 0, 3, 6, like that. 2-year data it is. Okay, 12 months, 24 months, so it is 2-year data. In y-axis you will see 0 to 100. Okay, in y-axis we are showing patients at a risk. 100, this is in percentages, so 100%. Every patient is at a risk. So I told already, these all are the cancer patients. So they are at a risk. That means anytime death can happen to them. And now clinical trial, we are starting from here. This is the 3rd month data you see. Then 6th month, 9th month, 1 year, then 1.5 year, 2 year. You see this curve, each and every area curve is happening. This curve means event happening. Event is death here. It's a cancer patient. Okay, so death happening everywhere, death is happening. So that is the reason this patient's at risk is coming down. 3 different treatments are there. Okay, think that blue is our treatment, pink and green is already into the market. Okay, we are comparing. Now you see, by end of before 2 years, that means 21 month, 22, maybe 23rd month, no one is surviving from this green group. That means whoever have taken medicine, this green medicine, no one is surviving. Everyone died. Pink, you see, by that time, by 2 years, 10% of patients are surviving. Okay, still continuing. Blue, you see, 20% of patients are surviving. So blue is better, right? Better than pink and green. Beautiful graph, right? This is a Kaplan-Meier graph. I think most of you, I don't know, if you are learning statistics, you will hear this name. Kaplan-Meier is one of the famous statistician. Very beautiful graph. When I'm explaining, it's very easy, but it's actually a life because it's a cancer patients. See, the 20% of patients, that means out of 100, 20 patients are surviving after 2 years also. After 2 years also, they are surviving because of this medicine. So that medicine is good. Okay, this is one of the graph we generate. I think I have another graph here. This is a box plot just to show the summary statistics of continuous values. So this is like a mean, then this is quartile 1, this is median, quartile 2, this is quartile 3, this is maximum. Just to see the outliers. Box plot we generate just to see the outliers. Okay, this is another graph that we generate. Okay, so I will end up here. I think I have taken almost 1 hour and 15 minutes. I know this set up for 2 hours. I thought 1.5 hours of time. So the floor, I'll keep this floor open for any question and answer session. I know it's maybe it's not easy because I know none of you are from the clinical background, so it will be very difficult for you to digest and understand. Uh, you don't need to think too much about it. It's all like the behind this, as I mentioned, there is a software called SaaS that is working, and there are huge opportunities for a SaaS programmer. And I know there are some of the mathematicians attending this session. If you are really interested to take it forward as a go forward as a mathematician, it is a great career. Don't think I'm not against the teaching. I love all my teachers, but generally what happens is if you are interacting with any of the mathematicians, most of the time we hear that they would like to go into the teaching profile or teaching profession. But more than teaching, now there are lots and lots of opportunity for mathematicians into the data analysis area. As I mentioned at the beginning, the industry is changing. Everyone is behind data. And I just talked about the clinical industry. There is insurance, there is market research, there is finance, everywhere. Now, finance, I can easily tell you one of the example. People are applying for personal loan. People are applying for home loan. People are applying for credit card and all, right? How it is getting? How they are? Some of them are getting approved. Some of them are getting rejected, right? I'm not talking about the corporate bank or urban bank that we have in our village where the political leaders will influence. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a corporate banks like maybe HDFC, ICICI, and all were uh, huge competition. Like it's very difficult to get. What they do is they will ask you lots of questions. They will collect lots of information from you. Do you have a property? Do you have a vehicle? What is your salary? Hmm? Um, all your assets they will check, and then they will set up a model. Based on all these questions, they will set up a model for each and every question. If you have if you are a salaried employee, maybe 1 mark. If you have a your own home, 2 mark. If your own vehicle, 3 mark, like that. And then based on this score they will set up. If there are 10 questions, then if all 10 is having one SSS answer, then 10 total mark will be 10. Then whoever is scoring 5, that means at least for 5 questions, if your answer is yes, that means 5 mark you will get. 5 mark that person will. Whoever is getting more than 5, they will be getting the loan. They'll be getting the credit card. This is the way they work, the financial domain work. Now it is very easy, right? When I'm talking about explaining in this way, I just give you a brief idea. But now think that a bank like a City Bank or ICICI Bank, HDFC Bank, they operate worldwide. Daily they will be getting lakhs and lakhs of application for loan. So it's not easy, right, to check manually and do all these things. And the model I told is just about a 5 mark, 10 mark, and all. It's not about that. There are huge information they capture. So they set up a linear regression model, and then whoever is getting more than one specific score, for those people they give loan. Here mathematics play a major role or statistics play a major role. So that's about the financial industry, insurance, market research, actuarial science, everywhere I can tell you lots and lots of opportunities are there for statisticians, mathematicians, and these computer science graduates. Not graduates, maybe you have to go for postgraduates and everything. But don't think if someone is telling me that now it is very difficult to get a job, I generally slap those people. It's very easy, very easy. If you are ready to explore, if you are creating a good profile in LinkedIn, if you are ready to go anywhere and work into any profession, into any domain, huge openings, huge opportunities are there. I told you already, like in a year I have 10, 11 people go to different universities and statisticians, 10, 11 people, and salaries and all, it's huge. It's huge. Means at the beginning itself, yearly we give them 4 or 5 lakh, and in 2, 3 years they reach us 10, 15 lakhs. So I can very openly tell mathematicians, statisticians, and computer science, don't think that okay, you have taken this course maybe due to your parents or due to your sisters or brother or teachers, and then thinks that okay, I'll get married and settle somewhere or I'll go move to a teaching profession. No, huge opportunities are different. I just talked about SAS. There is Hadoop, there is big data, there is R. Different softwares are there to analyze the data. So please explore it and let me know if you need any help or support. Okay. So I'll stop it here and keep the floor open for questions.
Thank you, sir. It was an awesome session. Actually, we should get some more time on this. And actually, here we are exploring what is the scope of computer science and mathematics. Actually, we think about the biology and clinical area is far from this computer science or mathematics. Actually, mathematics people don't like this clinical session or biological session, but all are related, closely related, and we have a lot of scope here. So actually, it's an eye-opening session. It's a brilliant session, sir. So very fastly covered all some of the portions. We need more from you later, and we are looking forward you, sir. Thank you. Your session is very brilliant session. Thank you. And I should get the feedback from other participants too. And we are going to the session, and all should ask some questions and query. Please. Fatima. Hello.
Seems she got stuck.
Hello, Fatima. ഒന്നും കേൾക്കുന്നില്ലേ? Fatima.
Hello. Yes, ma'am.
Come on.
Yes, ma'am.
Fatima, you are called.
So please, participants, please.
Ma'am, ഇപ്പം കേൾക്കാവോ?
Yes.
Yes.
Does anyone like to share your feedback about this session? Anyone?
Good afternoon, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, good afternoon.
So I'm Justin from St. Joseph's College. The session was very helpful in understanding how SAS programming works and how we can pursue a successful career in this field. The way in which you started the session was very interesting, giving basic statistics about some common items helped building interest among the participants. The information that more people own a cell phone than a toothbrush was a brilliant move for gaining the attention of the participants. Connecting SAS programming to our day-to-day life made the topic easily digestible. The overall section was very interesting and well executed. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Justin. Anyone?
Jacinta Miss is
Jacinta
having
Miss.
some question.
You have no questions to ask, none of you.
Jacinta Miss, please. With a hand. Miss, please. Sir, Jacinta Miss is a student and a resource person.
അതെയോ? ശരി. Okay.
Our principal is Muralidharan sir.
Hi, Ranjit. Glad to meet you. I listened to the last part of your session, and it was, you have given a contemporary touch, talking about the coronavirus vaccine and how it was shelved for some time, safety measures and all that, risk analysis.
Yeah.
So
Are you, no, this is a very general kind of question, Mr. Ranjit. Are you involved in this kind of, associated with this kind of work? Your
Yeah, yeah.
institution?
Yes, yes. Currently, that vaccine I'm working, we are
Oh, I
already
see.
actually globally we are working for around 30 vaccines, different
Oh,
vaccine for
oh,
COVID
oh,
vaccine. Now, particularly from India perspective, I am working for that Covishield vaccine. That vaccine
oh,
developed by Oxford University, and
oh,
this got by that Pune-based company Serum. So I'm the one who is analyzing that data. That is the reason I have all that information. None of them will be having because it's all confidential.
yeah.
Since I am the one who is analyzing, I was able to tell you about
Mm,
this
mm.
100 patients, 23 having some adverse event, and one patient in UK having these neurology issues and all those things.
Oh, 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 oh. Further experiments will be done in this
Right,
regard.
right. So that one patient, we will be looking into that. Next 1 week, we'll be completely analyzing that patient data,
Uh,
checking why it happened, because this is an unexpected thing. And then we need to get an approval from, there is a data safety monitoring board. For every
okay,
trial, there will be an independent board to review the patient
okay.
safety. So they'll be
Uh,
checking into that, and will be telling us if we prove that this issue is not due to our drug, not due to our
yeah,
vaccine, then
yeah,
they will tell us to move forward.
okay. So will that person will be watched, I think, right?
Yeah, yeah, that person will be under our monitor.
Uh,
It's in UK, so there is like we have our clinical team in UK, so they
yeah,
are monitoring each and everything.
okay. Is are other kind of uh, organizations like yours doing the same thing in other parts of the world?
Right, right. It is happening everywhere now. In India, in Australia, in UK, US, everywhere these clinical trials are going on.
No,
Globe.
no. I am asking you the same vaccine for the same vaccine.
for the
No.
same for the same vaccine also it is happening, yeah, because
Okay.
what they are doing is in
Uh,
individual countries they are
uh,
doing a trial with the patients
okay.
from that particular country only to
Okay.
get the local approval.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Thank you, sir. So, well, this session is over. Moving on to good evening, everyone. And here I welcome all to this valedictory session of Concursor 2020 International IT Webinar Series. Last 3 days and well today, we have had deep insight into several topics. We had scholars enlighten us in both theory and practical ways. Thank you so much to you all. As we come to the valedictory function, I now take this opportunity to invite and welcome the dignitaries to this session. First of all, I would like to invite Reverend Father Johnson Simeti, Vice Principal of St. Joseph College, Pilatra, for valedictory address. Father, please.
Thank you. Respected resource person of the day, Mr. Ranjit PV, Principal Dr. K. C. Muralidharan, Ms. Jancy Joseph, Head of the Department, and all other dignitaries, participants, teachers, and students. Concursor 2020, there has been taking place for last 4 days, from 9th onwards. I understand that it has been a great success because analyzing the sessions that has been going on have given an integrated picture of their course, computer applications. Actually, I was attending the last sessions of last portion of the session of Mr. Ranjit. Actually, last 2 years, previous 2 years, I have been actually thinking of bioinformatics, the course of bioinformatics. Actually, I thought I had been into a session called bioinformatics because, as you all know, it's a combination of biology as well as the computer science as well as mathematics and statistics. So it has brought into an idea a horizon of opportunities. Actually, the COVID situations brought into a opened brought horizon of opportunities into computer science students. Actually, analyzing the sessions that are taken place, I feel great as many have given their feedback. It was wonderful, beneficial, useful, and all the sessions were beautiful. Some of them I had attended the sessions. So from all the feedback, I can very well say it was a great success. And I really appreciate the Department of Computer Applications headed by Ms. Jansi Joseph and all other teachers doing wonderfully well in the Concourse webinar series. So as it's stated out here, it has gone into international level, exploring the opportunities or opening the threshold of or prospects of the profession they are going into. So in such a way, it has bring about a new ideas, knowledge, and maybe because there was a workshop also about the Python. So it has brought about a new skills, I suppose. In a way, I appreciate, I congratulate Department of Computer Applications and all the participants, especially all the dignitaries. In a way, I especially appreciate the resource persons who have rendered their skill and knowledge over here in making and maybe revealing the opportunities and things to the students of ours as well as all the participants. So thank you so much, all the appreciations of the college and the management. Thank you, all the best.
Thank you, Father. Next, I would like to invite our principal, Dr. K.C. Muralidharan, to speak few. Sir, please.
So it has been a very enlightening experience with the Department of Computer Science conducting a 4-day webinar. Actually, it was a sort of workshop focusing on, the certain softwares like Python and also SAS. Very useful nowadays to negotiate the realities that we face, hard realities that we face with the COVID-19 new normal, imposed on us, and every human being either suffering from or expected to suffer from this disease is looking forward to the vaccine, and we are singularly lucky to have listened to a person who is working directly with a vaccine like that, and that too at a moment when the vaccine is expected to be used or prescribed for people is kept back for some time, for some days, when safety measures are to be improved and the risk factors are reduced. And we were really lucky to have a person working on that. And our students, I think, must have listened to him speaking about the job opportunities that wait for you. Mathematics students, computer science students, and statistics students, there waits for you a lot of opportunities, well-paid opportunities, in fields like this. And he has spoken to you about the kind of salary that you get at the beginning, and also how it, rises as your experiences go for a 2 or 3 year period. So in all senses, financially, and the worthiness of the work that you do, from the perspective of the career also, all these disciplines have much scope, infinite scope, I would say. Just like the first resource person, Pushpa Pal, also told you, appreciating your work. that you can do these things sitting at your home, and that is the way the world is growing, though we are having some trouble from a kind of virus like this. But it is through these disciplines, I think, we are going to overcome these this pandemic and more pandemics to come, or whatever else that our society is facing will be managed, will be overcome through the disciplines. This is where your studies become very important. These disciplines are the ways in which we have to negotiate our urgent realities that faces all kinds of social illnesses, from poverty to pandemic, should be overcome by you when you master or when you graduate in different disciplines and come up with your own contributions to the discipline, working hard and learning more things in relation to human life. I think it was a very good webinar. I congratulate Jansi and her team for arranging the seminar in 4 days. And not only for that, picking up the right resource persons. All the resource persons I heard, I find very humble, very knowledgeable, and very friendly, ready to share their knowledge, and also to, help you even after this. They have offered you all kinds of help. You can contact them. They will be available to us, and getting such resource persons is, great. Like I think for an institution like ours. And in the name of the institution, I should thank you, Mr. Ranjit. And we also request that your, well wishes should be with us. Your helping mentality should also be with us in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, I would like to invite Aishwarya for reviewing the event.
Good evening, everyone. As you all know, we have come to an end to this 4-day webinar series. I feel humbled to have been provided the opportunity to present a short review on the same. I'm sure we indeed had a wonderful time, accelerated by all the new and useful information gained throughout the webinar series. It really did open the door to new ideas, newer possibilities, and newest technological advances. On our first day, we had a webinar handled by Mr. Abhijit Pal and Mrs. Pushpa Pal on IT trends. The session focused on various IT trends and IoTs. And the session was a catalyst in exploring and experiencing about latest technologies. And from day 2 to 4 till afternoon, the webinar was handled by Mr. Shailesh Sivan on the topic Unraveling Python. And Sir has explained Python from its very basic levels. And also Sir has walked us through different concepts in Python and scientific programming with Python, data connectivity, and so on, which we are able to get a better and deeper understanding about Python programming. Today's afternoon session was handled by Mr. Ranjit PV on the topic The Role of SAS Programmer in Clinical Trials. The session focused on application of SAS, and the session was so useful for all of the listeners, especially how the topic was related with the current health problems like COVID and diabetes. The session was an eye-opener for all of us. The session helped us to build a clear insight into the topic. Thank you, sir, for spending your valuable time with us. This was an excellent session. And thank you.
Thank you, Aishwarya. Next, I would like to call Indranil Rajivan for report.
Hello, Mr. Screen കാണുന്നുണ്ടോ?
Yes, Internet.
Visible.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I am Indranil Rajivan. Before I present the event report, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for making Concurso 2020 a great success. The Department of Computer Applications, St. Joseph's College, Platra, organized a 4-day IT webinar series as a part of the annual Concurso event. The meeting was hosted at Zoom Video Communications from 9 September 2020 to 12 September 2020. The organization committee included Mrs. Jancy Joseph, head of the department, Mrs. Sheba M., faculty coordinator, Saurav and Misbah, student coordinators, and other dedicated members who worked day and night to bring this event into action. Dr. Babu Antopi, former controller of examination, Kannur University, presided the gathering as the chief guest. Most Reverend Dr. Alex Varakundala, Bishop, Diocese of Kannur, Reverend Monsignor Clarence Palliet, Vicar General, Diocese of Kannur, and Dr. K.C. Muralidharan, Principal of St. Joseph's College, Platra, also attended the meeting as their guests. Mrs. Pushpa Pal, Enterprise Architect at Global Finance UK, Mr. Abhijit Pal, E2E Architect at Global Finance UK, Mr. Shailesh Shivan, Assistant Professor at Sacred Heart College, Kochi, and Mr. Ranjit PV, Director at Biostatics and Programming, PPD Bangalore, were the resource persons who delivered outstanding presentations to the participants, which included students, teachers, professionals, and research scholars. The meeting commenced on 9 September at 1:30 p.m. with the inaugural ceremony, which was attended by over 100 participants. Mrs. Jancy Joseph delivered the welcome speech. Dr. K.C. Muralidharan followed up with his inspiring presidential speech. Most Reverend Dr. Alex Varakundala enlightened the assembly with his blessing speech. Dr. Babu Antopi escorted the inauguration and graced the occasion. Reverend Monsignor Clarence Palliet provided the felicitations. Mrs. Sheba M. conveyed the vote of thanks and the ceremony concluded at 2:30 p.m. Session 1 began at 2:30 p.m. right after the inaugural ceremony. Mrs. Pushpa Pal delivered a talk on technological trends, which was followed by Mr. Abhijit Pal, who shared his knowledge regarding Internet of Things. The session was on technology trends, which contained various interesting topics such as digital platform technologies, cloud and edge computing, artificial intelligence, natural language processing, autonomous vehicles, and augmented humans. The presentation was over by 3:55 p.m. It was well applauded, and the Q&A session started at 4 p.m., which had engaging discussions on multi-touch technology and bitcoins. It was over at 4:15 p.m., and the session was concluded by Fatima Rashid with a word of thanks. The event continued on 10 September with session 2, which was about Python Foundation. The session began at 10:07 a.m. under the presence of Mr. Shailesh Shivan. He guided the participants into learning Python from scratch. It was beginner friendly, which included basic constructs of Python, control structures, containers, and functions. The presentation was interactive the whole time, together with positive responses from the participants, which did not leave much to discuss at the end. The chat box contained worthy compliments. Mrs. Jancy Joseph conveyed a word of thanks and marked the end of session at 12:15 p.m. Having worked on the feedbacks received, session 3 was very punctual, which was observed on 11 September. It began at sharp 10 a.m. with a small discussion on image processing by one of the participants. Mr. Shailesh even continued his presentation, which this time was getting into more expertise. It included object-oriented programming concepts and numeric and scientific applications of Python using NumPy and Matplotlib. The presentation ended at 12:15 p.m. Anjali M. and Indranil Rajivan provided live feedback which contained an unbiased positive review of the session. Justin PJ concluded the session with a word of thanks. Session 4 was conducted on 12 September, the last day of the series. It started at 10:08 a.m., further having Mr. Shailesh Shivan as the instructor. The interactive lessons on Python continued, revolving around the usage of Python for data processing. The session began by brushing up some basic database concepts and moved on to MySQL queries. Then it went on to discuss database connectivity and creating GUIs using Tkinter. The presentation ended at 12:05 p.m., after which Anvia Peter and one of our invited participants gave a positive live feedback. The session ceased at 12:15 p.m. after a vote of thanks by Mrs. Shiba. After a break of about 2.5 hours, session 5 commenced on the same day at 2:35 p.m. This session was handled by Mr. Ranjit PV, which discussed the role of a SAS programmer. His presentation covered various topics, some of which included statistics, SAS components, a case study on diabetes, and data collection and analysis. The engaging presentation came to an end at 3:50 p.m. Mrs. Jancy Joseph and Justin PJ provided a live feedback which admired the webinar. Session 5 marked the end of this series at 4 p.m., after which the event proceeded towards the closing ceremony. The event was conducted successfully. Despite the trying times, the department had put maximum effort in bringing Concurso 2020 to a fruitful ending. The crew was well coordinated, where every member had significant contributions in putting this event into action. The college is grateful for all the presentations delivered by the resource persons. Overall feedback indicated the sessions had a positive impact on all the students, teachers, professionals, and research scholars who took part in the webinars organized as a part of Concurso 2020. Altogether, it was time well spent. Thank you.
Thank you, Indranil. Okay, it's time to.
നമ്മുടെ ജാൻസി നിങ്ങളുടെ ഒരു ഫോർമർ സ്റ്റുഡന്റ് ഉണ്ടായിട്ടില്ലേ നമ്മുടെ ഒന്ന്
Yeah, ഇന്നുണ്ട് ഷഹാബ്. ഷഹാബ് is here.
ഷഹാബില്ലേ? ഷഹാബിനെ കണ്ടുപോലെ
ഷഹാബ്
തോന്നി ഇവിടെ.
ഉണ്ട് ഷഹാബ്. Indranil,
let him say a few words.
Stop your screen share. Indranil.
Shahab is seen here.
ഷഹാബ് ഇല്ലേ? ഇതിനു മുന്നേ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. ഇന്ദ്രനീൽ സ്ക്രീൻ ഷെയറിംഗ് സ്റ്റോപ്പ് ചെയ്യോ?
ഞാൻ പുറത്താണുള്ളത്, സംസാരിക്കാൻ പറ്റാത്തൊരു.
എന്നാലും ഒരു
not able to find that option. Could you please remove me as the co-host? Then it would automatically remove me from sharing the screen.
Okay.
Shahab, just a few words. No, Jansi, is he in Kerala? Is he in Kerala? No.
He's from UAE. Now he's at
joined
UAE.
from UAE. Okay.
Ramesh, are you there? One of my friend is here.
Okay.
Ramesh, anybody? ആരെങ്കിലും ഉണ്ടോ ഫീഡ്ബാക്ക് ഇനി പറയാൻ?
Anyone?
Okay.
Okay, let's conclude this session. I would like to invite Fatima Rashid for a vote of thanks.
Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. If you can speak, you can influence. If you can influence, you can change lives. Evening to all. On behalf of St. Joseph's College, Vyadra, I'd like to extend a heartfelt gratitude to all our resource persons, Mr. Ranjit, Mr. Abhijit Pal, Ms. Pushpa Pal, and Mr. Shailesh Shivan, who have spared their valuable time with us on this webinar series. Thank you. At the outlet, I thank all of you who enlightened our webinar Concurso 2020. I would also like to thank Dr. K.C. Muralidharan, Principal, and Reverend Father Johnson Sinithi, Vice Principal, for giving a pleasant feedback about the webinar. Thank you. Next, I'd like to thank Aishwarya for the review and Indranil for presenting the report. Thank you both. I would also like to thank Student Coordinator Saurabh Prabhakaran and Muhammad Misbah and the Staff Coordinator Shiba Ma'am for managing the event to overall success. Thank you. I also thank Sheija ma'am, Jansi ma'am, and Seena ma'am who guided us and stood as a backbone to this event. Thank you, teachers. And finally, I extend a hearty gratitude to all the participants for making our program a grand success. Thank you all.
Thank you, Fatima. Here we end our session, and thank you, everybody.
Okay, thank you. രഞ്ജിത്തിന്റെ ഫോൺ നമ്പറും ഇമെയിൽ ഐ ഡി ഒക്കെ വാങ്ങി വെച്ചിട്ടില്ലേ ജാൻസി?
യെസ്, സീനയുടെ ഫ്രണ്ട് ആണ്, നമ്മളുടെ സീന മിസ്സിന്റെ ഫ്രണ്ട് ആണ്.
ആ ശരി.
Available here always.
Okay, okay.